Original script, diagnosed in late 2022, shared publicly in an Australian television interview in early 2023. Search results. Multiple sources confirm the timeline. An Instagram post by Jonathan on Autism Awareness Day. April 2024 states, "I got my diagnosis in 2022, not long after my 27th birthday." A 7 News article from December 2023 reports on his Australian TV interview on Breakout Central, where he said, "I was diagnosed with autism at the beginning of this year," meaning early 2023, and this is the first time I have been able to publicly speak about it. Correction. The original script's timing was slightly off. The diagnosis was in 2022, and the public reveal was in late 2023 bites on Australian TV. The line, "He was officially diagnosed with autism," can be refined to be more specific based on the search results. I will correct the dates and cite the Australian TV appearance. The core of the claim is correct, just needs refinement. Original script. Estimated net worth grew to around $4 million. Search results. Celebrity Net Worth and LuxLux both state his net worth is $4 million. Tuco.co.ke estimates it at $5 million. These are typical online estimates and not official, but they are consistent. The original script's figure is reasonable and aligns with these public estimates. Correction. The feedback noted this is unverified, which is true for most celebrity net worth figures. To maintain accuracy while still providing the information, I will phrase it as his estimated net worth, often cited by various sources to be around $4 million. This attributes the figure without stating it as an absolute fact. Original script. He has even co-authored a children's book, Jonathan the Porcupine. Search results. The book absolutely exists. His official website promotes Jonathan the Porcupine as part of the Dan the Fish series of children's books. It is available for purchase at major booksellers like Blackwell's and Barnes & Noble, listing Jonathan Antoine and Kathy Gebhardt as authors, published in 2017. Correction. The fact-check feedback was incorrect. The book is real. I will keep this detail in the script and can now be confident in its accuracy. Intro. Hook. I will make the language more direct and punchy. Use contractions, wasn't, it's. Frame the story as a mystery to be unraveled. Change cultural. Reset to something less cliched like, it wasn't just a performance. It was a revelation. Section 1, the boy before the voice. Simplify sentences. Change cruel paradox to something more direct. Make the discovery by his teacher feel more like a pivotal, story-like moment. Section 2, the audition. Inject more personality when describing the judges. Shorten sentences for dramatic effect during the description of his singing. I'll make the contrast between the judges' skepticism and their shock more vivid. Section 3, price of fame. Rephrase commercial success and artistic sensibilities into more conversational terms. Frame the split with Charlotte not as a dry business decision, but as a difficult but necessary choice for both of them as young adults. I'll rephrase the youngest tenor in history line to be more impactful. Section 4, the private battle. This section is very emotional. I'll use more empathetic language. I'll rephrase uniquely toxic and minefield of judgment to sound less like a list and more like a lived experience. I will connect his weight loss journey more directly to his search for control over his life, as sources suggest. Section 5, the diagnosis. This is the climax. I will use Jonathan's own words from the sources, like daydream and recontextualization of a life already lived. I'll use the corrected timeline of the diagnosis in 2022. and the public reveal, late 2023 on Australian TV. I'll emphasize the feeling of liberation and relief he described. Conclusion. Jonathan today. I'll rewrite the opening to be more direct, answering the title's question. I will confirm the existence of the children's book. I will avoid cliches like a world away and symbol of resilience by describing his current state more actively. The final lines will be reworked to be more powerful and less generic than deep, hard-won personal truth. I will now proceed with rewriting the script based on this plan. Remember the boy with the voice of an angel? In 2012, a shy, nervous 17-year-old shuffled onto the Britain's Got Talent stage and with a single song made the world go silent. His name was Jonathan Antoine, and his voice wasn't just good, it was a force of nature, a sound so powerful it felt like it belonged to another. He became an overnight sensation. But after the applause died down and the headlines moved on, a very different and intensely private struggle took center stage. This isn't just a "where are they now" story. It's the story of a life lived in the shadow of that blinding spotlight. A journey through crippling anxiety and a silent battle that went misunderstood for nearly 3 decades. This is what really happened to Jonathan Antoine, and the shocking diagnosis that would finally explain everything. We'll uncover his fight for his health and the truth behind the rumors, because to understand where Jonathan is today, you have to understand the immense weight he was carrying long before he ever sang a note on that stage. He was just 17, standing next to his friend Charlotte Giaconelli, visibly trembling under the glare of the studio lights. He was shy, overweight, and an easy target for bullies. The judges looked on, a mix of pity and skepticism on their faces. Simon Cowell, in particular, seemed unimpressed, even suggesting Jonathan should ditch his partner and go it alone. But then the music for the prayer started. And what happened next wasn't just a performance, it was a revelation. A voice that defied all expectations erupted from this nervous kid, a rich, booming tenor that filled every corner of the auditorium and left millions at home speechless. That one moment changed his life forever. But what the cameras never saw was the deep, confusing, and silent war he'd been fighting his whole life. It would take more than a decade of fame, fortune, and turmoil before the truth of that war finally came out, revealing a reality far more complex than anyone ever imagined. Let's rewind. Long before he was Jonathan from BGT, he was just Jonathan, a kid from Essex, England. Born on January 13, 1995, to a police inspector dad and a supportive mom. His childhood seemed ordinary on the surface, but underneath, Jonathan felt different, isolated by a sensitivity he couldn't explain. This very sensitivity, the thing that would later fuel his incredible art, also made him a target. School wasn't a safe place. It was a battlefield. He was bullied relentlessly for his weight and his quiet nature. The daily torment destroyed his self-esteem, forcing him deeper into his shell. He found himself in a painful paradox. A boy with a colossal voice trapped in a world that was making him feel smaller and smaller. This wasn't just teasing. It was the kind of sustained emotional abuse that leaves deep, invisible scars. His only real escape was music. Alone in his room, listening to greats like Luciano Pavarotti, he could be someone else. He could open his mouth and let out the powerful, beautiful sound that was his and his alone. Singing wasn't just a hobby. It was his lifeline. It was the one place where he felt powerful, where he felt safe, and where he felt seen. It was his secret weapon against a world that seemed determined to break him. His talent was a private gift, until a teacher at West Hatch High School, Jenny Ewington, heard him sing. She didn't just hear a good voice, she heard a once-in-a-generation talent. It was her fateful idea to pair him with another gifted student, a soprano named Charlotte Giaconelli. She hoped Charlotte's stage presence could help coax the shy Jonathan out of his shell. It was a decision that kicked off a chain of events neither of them could have predicted. Together, they started performing, their two voices blending in, a way that felt truly special. They even sang the prayer at their teacher's wedding, a performance that was a small taste of the magic to come. But even then, the idea of standing in front of Simon Cowell felt like an impossible, terrifying dream. The year is 2012. The Britain's Got Talent auditions are underway, and the judges, Simon Cowell, Amanda Holden, Alicia Dixon, and David Walliams, have seen it all. They're jaded, waiting for something to surprise them. Then, out walk two teenagers. Charlotte is bubbly and confident. Jonathan is the complete opposite. He stands awkwardly, shoulders hunched, avoiding eye contact. He looks terrified. The pre-audition chat is painful to watch. He's withdrawn, his voice barely a whisper. Simon, never one to hold back, leans forward and says, "Jonathan, you have a confidence issue." He then turns to Charlotte, suggesting she might be holding Jonathan back. He looks at Jonathan and asks, "Can I hear you on your own?" The moment is thick with tension, but Jonathan, loyal to his friend, politely refuses. They are a duo. Sink or swim, they would do it together. The judges trade skeptical looks. No one expected what was about to happen. The first notes of the prayer begin. Charlotte starts, her voice clear and lovely. It's a solid performance. But then it's Jonathan's turn. He takes a breath, and what comes out of his mouth is nothing short of a miracle. It's a voice that doesn't belong to a nervous 17-year-old. It's the voice of a seasoned maestro, a world-class tenor with breathtaking power and control. The entire room falls into a stunned silence. Jaws literally drop. Amanda Holden's eyes widen in disbelief, even Simon Cowell's. They sailed through the competition, their confidence growing with each round. They were the people's champions, the clear favorites to win. But in a shocking upset, the victory went to a charming dancing dog act, Ashley and Pudsey. For Jonathan, the loss was a gut punch. He later recalled the feeling of his organs sinking as the result was announced. But in a show of pure grace, he held it together. Despite finishing second, their future seemed set. Simon Cowell immediately offered them a £1 million recording contract with his label, Psycho. The shy boy from Essex was now a star, but he would soon find out that the spotlight that saved him could also be a very dangerous place. Losing BGT might have stung, but it hardly slowed them down. Jonathan and Charlotte were immediately swept up in the whirlwind of their newfound fame. Their first album, Together, released in 2012, sold over 250,000 copies. They followed it up in 2013 with Perhaps Love. They toured, they did press, they lived the dream. On the outside, it was a fairy tale, but inside, the pressure was building, especially for Jonathan. The shy kid who struggled with social interaction was now expected to be on 24/7. Interviews and photo shoots were a constant source of anxiety. While Charlotte handled public life more naturally, Jonathan found it draining. The fame that had validated his talent was also making his mental health struggles worse. He was battling severe anxiety and deep depression, all while trying to keep up the appearance of a happy, successful star. The partnership also started to feel like a creative constraint. They had been paired together by a teacher, but as they grew up, it was clear they wanted different things. Charlotte was drawn to musical theater, while Jonathan was a pure classical tenor. The decision to split in February 2014 wasn't messy. It was a mutual agreement that their journey as a duo was over. In an almost unheard-of move, their label, Sony Classical, offered both of them solo record deals, a huge vote of confidence in their individual talents. For Jonathan, this was terrifying. Charlotte had been his emotional safety net, the outgoing one who handled the spotlight. Could he really do this alone? He hesitated, but he took the leap. In October 2014, he released his debut solo album, Tenore. It was a massive success, shooting to #1 on the UK classical charts and making him the youngest tenor in history to hit that mark. He had proven he could stand on his own. His solo career took off. He released more albums like Believe in 2016 and Going the Distance in 2020 and performed in prestigious venues around the world. By all accounts, he was a huge success, with his net worth estimated by various sources to be around $4 million. But while his professional life soared, his private life was quietly unraveling. The external success was just a mask for a deepening internal struggle. The anxiety and depression didn't disappear with the record deals. In fact, they got worse. He was caught in a vicious cycle. His talent brought him fame, but the fame was destroying his peace of mind. Something had to give. The real story, far away from the cheering crowds, is about the private battle Jonathan was fighting every single day. The happy tenor on stage was a carefully built persona. Behind the curtain, he was grappling with mental health issues so severe that he later admitted he often struggled just to make it to the next day. His anxiety wasn't just stage fright, it was a crippling force. Simple things like going to the store felt like massive challenges. Social events were exhausting, and he would often retreat into solitude to recover. This was all amplified by waves of debilitating depression. There were days when just getting out of bed felt impossible. Fame was a double-edged sword. It had rescued him from a life of being bullied, but it also threw him into a high-pressure world that was toxic for someone with his sensitivities. Every photo, every article, every comment section was a minefield of judgment about his weight and his personality. This silent war had been raging long before BGT. He saw therapists for years, trying to understand what he was going through. But while they treated the symptoms, anxiety and depression, the root cause remained a mystery. His weight, a source of pain since childhood, became a public spectacle. He embarked on a major health journey, losing over 70 pounds. The media framed it as a simple success story, but for Jonathan, it was a desperate attempt to gain some control over a life that felt chaotic. He committed to walking 10,000 steps a day, a simple discipline that helped him feel more grounded. Amidst this turmoil, a new light entered his life. He met a Canadian woman named Michelle Doucet online. Their connection grew from a friendship into a deep, supportive partnership. Michelle became his rock, an anchor in the storm. Her love and encouragement helped him rebuild the confidence that the industry and his own internal battles had worn away. Yet the central question remained. Why? Why did he struggle so much? Why did the world feel so loud, so overwhelming? He was approaching his late 20s and knew he couldn't keep living this way. He needed an answer. In 2022, not long after his 27th birthday, Jonathan Antoine finally got the answer that would unlock the mystery of his entire life. He was officially diagnosed with autism. The diagnosis was, in his words, both frightening and incredibly liberating. It was scary because it reframed his entire identity, but it was liberating because for the first time everything made sense. He described the moment as a daydream, where the confusing pieces of his life suddenly snapped into place. He said, "Half of my life I lived in confusion. Then I was diagnosed with autism. Everything made sense. It was such a relief." Suddenly there was an explanation. The extreme sensitivity to noise that made public appearances so torturous, the social anxiety that made interviews feel like an interrogation, the intense focus that allowed him to master his craft. It all had a name. It wasn't a character flaw. It wasn't a weakness. It was just the way his brain was wired. He publicly shared his diagnosis for the first time in an emotional TV interview in Australia in late 2023. He explained that this new knowledge allowed him to look back on his life with compassion. He spoke about how scary it was to reckon with a life already lived, but how it also provided a clear path forward. It wasn't an excuse, he stressed, but an explanation. His openness was met with a wave of support, especially from the neurodivergent community. The fact that he'd gone undiagnosed for 28 years through a period of intense public scrutiny shows how easily autism can be missed, often mislabeled as just anxiety or depression. This was a powerful new turning point. It marked the beginning of a chapter defined by self-acceptance. He began using his platform to talk about mental health, sharing what it's like to be autistic in a world not built for neurodivergent minds. The diagnosis didn't fix him, because he was never broken. It gave him the instruction manual for his own mind. So what really happened to Jonathan Antoine? He didn't disappear. He evolved. The man we see today has emerged from his private battles not just intact, but stronger and more authentic than ever before. Today, Jonathan has a thriving music career, but on his own terms. His voice, if anything, has only grown richer, now infused with the depth of his life experiences. He continues to release music and maintains a strong connection with his dedicated global fan base, known as the Fantoine. But his work now extends far beyond the concert hall. He's become a passionate advocate for mental health and autism acceptance, using his platform for genuine connection. He even co-authored a children's book, Jonathan the Porcupine, designed to promote optimism and help young readers feel seen and understood. It's a project that speaks volumes about his desire to use his own painful experiences to help the next generation. His personal life is a source of quiet strength, with his partner Michelle remaining a cornerstone of his well-being. Jonathan's story is a powerful reminder that the most important journeys are often the ones that happen inside. He faced bullying, the immense pressure of fame, and the confusion of an undiagnosed condition, and found his way through it all with honesty and courage. He has redefined what it means to be a successful artist, proving that vulnerability is a strength. He is no longer just the boy with the golden voice. He is a man who has found his own voice in every sense of the word. And Jonathan Antoine continues to inspire millions, a living testament to the fact that the most meaningful lives often come from a place of hard-won personal truth.